What's up, everybody? Earlier, I tried to go live on Facebook again, but unfortunately, it didn't work out. I think my internet is maybe not working very well. But I have promised to get on live or at least make some content every week to talk about my book, Public Relations for Musicians, which I released a few weeks ago, heck, maybe a month ago, and it just walks musicians and even other publicists through at least what's going on in my mind when it comes to the world of PR and music. And the last chapter that I talked about was actually just the intro, which went over kind of my history and how I got into this whole thing, which is very random. I started as a musician and still play music to this day, but ended up working for a couple labels and helping building some small companies with good friends of mine, and just meeting a lot of great people along the way that taught me what I know now. So it was very much through research and networking and just being taught by people that know what they're doing that got me to where I am today. And that shapes my perception of what PR is as a concept versus what it is as the job that I do. And I explain that in this first chapter of what PR is, which is the perception that a majority group or even a niche group of people have about you as a brand, and especially as a musician. There are bands out there that can be completely polarizing because they do off the wall crazy stuff, or they play it safe and they're so nice, like a Dave Grohl. Then you have like a Radiohead who's loved by a lot of people, but you don't hear a lot of drama about the band. That all comes from tactics that are intentional and non-intentional. It's just the stuff that they put out into the world. It's the messaging, it's the copy, it's the videos, it's the content, it's his dancing. And it's like that for any artist. Whatever you put out into the world, that's on social media and through articles that you get through PR efforts, that is your perception. That is PR as a full thing. But PR as a job, which I'm trying to teach you in this book, is broken down into those steps. And PR, what I do with that day to day is putting together pitches and following up and building relationships with people in the media so I can continue to send them things that I have to offer. And the advantage that I have as a publicist is that I have that experience writing great press releases, writing great pitches, having that opportunity to finesse those things as I move on in a campaign. And as an artist who wants to do this themselves, or at least learn about it, the biggest advantage that you'll have is knowing how it works, for one, and knowing how to build relationships with people in the media so they'll actually want to cover you and keep responding to those emails and those calls. And a lot of artists have come to me over the years, asking for little tips and things like that, and I'll gladly have those phone calls with them, and I give them what advice I can. And I mean, a lot of that is in this book as well. So if someone ever has questions about how they can do their own PR and get featured in magazines and blogs, and they might not be ready or willing to hire a publicist, it's not for everybody. And I think that this book is definitely, for the people that have bought it, I've had great feedback, have really enjoyed learning those steps. So thank you to everybody who's bought it so far. But PR as a job has all of those layers of understanding communication, writing, how to write somebody a message, or how to reach out in a creative way. You can reach out through Twitter, you can reach out through Facebook, if you do it in a good way. You don't want to necessarily bug people on Facebook about business stuff without asking for permission. So we dive into the book, and I'll do some more Facebook Lives and just talk about those different little strategies that are in the following chapters. But writing press releases, writing pitches, making those calls, those are all part of the PR hustle, quote unquote, that an artist needs to have to get featured in the media. And it's knowing what to look for, where those opportunities are, lists. There's so many contacts out there. There's thousands of people that I have and continue to work with, and there's new people that I meet almost every single day, virtually most of the time, because there's not a ton of events going on right now. It kind of sucks, but everything is online, and a lot of the work that we do in PR is done on our laptop and on our computers, and There's great phone calls and there's conference calls that we have, but it's been an online thing for a long time, minus a press junket or something for an event that is coming up that the media would come to. So basically, you could do this from anywhere. You could be on an island in Hawaii and do PR for your music, but you just have to know the steps and understand how it works. So my job, when I get an artist featured in a blog, is the sum of the whole. So it's hard to measure the features that you get. If you're in Wall Street Journal, okay, cool, you're going to see a lot of obvious traffic moving towards whatever it is that's being promoted, whether that's a book or an album or a restaurant or a food product. You're going to see obvious and obviously, the results that you can measure. You can almost, measure how many viewers Wall Street Journal gets, or if it's in print, obviously you can measure, subscriptions and things like that. But with a lot of features that are in blogs, it's really hard to measure how many people went to your feature and went back to your website. So what the mindset that I like people to have when it comes to PR is, if you have 10 features that month, which is pretty cool, you want to take a step back and, think about how much your perception has improved as an artist. If you're in, 5 blogs, a couple magazines, and you have a TV spot, those are all different chances for you to be, witnessed by another person. And whether that's an album or that's something that's going on with your career, you're doing something, on a stream, like all of that adds up. And it's very much a necessary thing, along with doing your social media and, working with your management and working on opportunities to tour, hopefully sooner than later. But yeah, I just wanted to explain more about how PR works as a job compared to what PR is as a concept. So if you have any questions, hit me up here on Facebook. Another thing I'm going to start doing is going live with some of my friends to talk about things that I know about and other things that I don't. Like my friend James and I are going to talk about Spotify playlisting, which I admit I am not the king of that. I love doing PR. I'm not a social media guy. I have somebody that helps me with that. So, I've met quite a few people over the years, including my buddy James, who has taken the time to learn about Spotify playlisting. And this really ties into PR as a concept, because if you're on 10, 15, 20 playlists, the perception that people have, especially people who don't understand PR or marketing, is that, wow, this band is kicking ass. They're on so many playlists. They're getting so many views. And whether that equals more people coming to a show or not is not necessarily relevant to this conversation, because that's really the perception that you're trying to build. It's not fake it till you make it. It's get it in as many places as possible so you could be found. There are so many artists out there that are all vying for that same spot that you may be featured in, and it's very much finite. There's only so many spots that an artist can be featured in on a playlist or in a magazine or in a blog at any given time. And if you get that, consider yourself lucky. That is not only because of PR efforts from a publicist like myself or from your own efforts from reading the book, but it's also because what you're doing is good. And I think it's because it's worthy of that person's time. So yeah, just something to consider with that, with PR and being in a band or being a musician. And yeah, I hope all of this helps, and check back next time and I'll go through the next chapter and we'll keep this conversation going. Thanks, guys.